this was like a plan B or plan C path that they couldn't make it in college. And so they went to cosmetology school, and like, there's just like, they're not looked upon as serious businesses. And that just like really gets me going. Like, you couldn't be more wrong. And so I think that there's a resilience and a strength of this industry that is really overlooked and underestimated.
This episode is brought to you by Boulevard, the first and only client experience platform purpose-built for appointment-based self-care businesses. Today's listeners can save 10%. To claim your special offer, head over to joinboulevard.com/podcast. That's joinblvd.com/podcast.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to have this conversation, especially because this information, I think, is going to be like mind-blowing to a lot of people who hear it. But before we jump into it, we would love to get to know you. I know our listeners are curious to get to know the man behind Boulevard. So please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks. Happy to be here. I'm Matt Danna, one of the co-founders and CEO of Boulevard. Started Boulevard almost 9 years ago at this point. I was born in Massachusetts. I went to school in upstate New York, ended up in LA. That's where I met my co-founder. And now I live in Nashville.
Very cool. How's Nashville treating you?
It's hot.
Yeah.
It's really hot.
Do you eat the hot chicken?
Beautiful city. Yes, I eat the hot chicken. Yes.
Awesome. So what brought you to this industry?
What brought me into the industry was more of a personal pain point. So the founding story behind Boulevard was I worked with Sean, my co-founder, at our last company. And there was a week where his hair was a complete disaster. Myself, as a good colleague, was, of course, making fun of him, said he needed to go get a haircut. And what he told me really resonated. He said that he kept forgetting to call his salon to make an appointment during the day. And at night, when he remembered, as he kind of remembered to do those kind of personal housekeeping things, it's, salon's closed. And so he said he just kept forgetting. And I was like, well, okay, well, call right now. But we were just so curious why that was a pain point, right? Like, why was that consumer experience like that? Like, why did these businesses that help you look and feel your best, why were they so hard to be a client at? It was like really inconvenient. And so we just got like so curious about that problem, to the extent where we're hanging out one weekend and we ended up walking into 2 salons and a spa and just asked how they handled appointments. Long story short, like, we just learned that there was big need for better technology in the space. So we just got super excited and decided that we could help build something better.
Yeah, very cool. I know I'm grateful. Like, shout out to Sean for having a bad hair day.
Yes.
Because we all needed the tool that you built. So that's super exciting. Were you surprised to see how many people, or companies, I should say, weren't online, weren't booking online and were afraid to?
We ended up doing this research. We posed as UCLA students, said we were working on a project. And so we just got so curious by this. But we were surprised that, all of these self-care businesses, salon, spas, nails, you name it, they're all using technology. I think that there's a perception oh, they must be on pen and paper, they're analog, it's old school. And no, they were all using tech. All of those solutions that they were using actually were capable of online booking, but the businesses wouldn't use it. And when asked about it, there would be this visceral response of are you using online booking? They're no, we hate it. It kills our business. It destroys us. And I'm
right.
Wow. It was and it was I triggered them by asking that question. I was there's something very powerful there. Not really sure what's going on. And so we just got so curious about that, and ended up learning that these solutions all worked where it's here's any slot of our calendar, grab any slot you want, here's our entire availability. And as these, when you're scheduling for a client, there's so many things that are taken into consideration in order to place them at the right time. And so it was just really surprising that fundamental need wasn't being addressed.
Yeah, there's definitely an art to booking.
Yes.
It's wild. So it seems like you've gotten to know the industry and the people in it really intimately. So were there things that surprised you about the people and the businesses? I'd love to hear from an outsider looking in, what you think of us.
Yeah. I mean, I've grown to love this industry and the people. There's just an incredible amount of depth. But I think one of the things that I've learned as somebody that's kind of, had one foot in the industry and one foot in tech is that there's just this incredible stigma about the industry that the folks that are, the professionals, the workers, like that this was like a plan B or plan C path, that they couldn't make it in college. And so they went to cosmetology school, and like, there's just like, they're not looked upon as serious businesses. And like, that just like really gets me going. Like, it's just like, you couldn't be more wrong. These businesses are just incredibly, like, they're really well run, and like, they're dealing with like kind of insane constraints and like really low profit margins, but like, they make it through. And so I think that there's a resilience and a strength of this industry that is really overlooked and underestimated.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I hate seeing that. Like, I went to cosmetology school as like a backup, or
Right.
I got that a lot where people would be like, "Oh, but you're so smart. Like, what are you doing in a salon?"
Yes.
And then I would explain to them that the salon I'm with makes millions of dollars, multiple millions of
Yes.
dollars, and we're opening a bunch of locations. And guess what? Like, I don't have the crazy like college debt that all of you do. So I think there's so many people out there that are living that life, and people have no idea like how much money is really being made. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's professionals in our system that like are making hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. It's like it's quite remarkable, and it's just no one knows from the outside.
absolutely. And the best part about it is like they're doing something that they love, and it's
Yes.
creative, and like they're pretty much in charge of everything that happens around them. So it's very exciting to see people like take control and do something a little different. So
Yeah, like there's so many folks that I've met in this industry that actually were like former accountants or a lawyer, and like
Right.
they're now doing hair because they love it. Like they had made it, and like this is their choice. I think that's the biggest thing, is everyone chooses to be in this industry, right? Like, it's not an industry that you do because it's a last resort. It's like, this is a choice, and it's really special.
Yeah, the passion. You can
Yeah.
feel it. So Boulevard just recently launched a really cool report that had some very surprising information. Can you tell us about the salon industry client retention report?
One of the things that I think our industry forgets is that it's recurring revenue in nature, right? Like, you have these clients and you want strong loyalty, but why is that so important? Is that when you keep a client, that's one less client you need to acquire, right? Like, one less client that you need to bring in the door. And so the more clients that you have, the bigger the base of clients, essentially, the more resilient a business will be, right? Like, that recurring revenue is really powerful and sustaining, and just adds a level of predictability to a business. We wanted to dive into that deeper. We wanted to see, okay, what does the shape of that look like? What is it? What are the characteristics of what does good retention look like for a salon? And it was pretty interesting to see kind of what that ends up looking like. I think that the numbers were more surprising than we were expecting. I think has been very surprising to anyone that we've talked to about it as well.
Very cool. Can you share like some of those details? Like I know there was a bit about not selling to someone on like the first appointment, which like obviously my like salon manager brain was like, oh my God, what? Like sales, right? Like tell them what you use, like put it up at the front, like all the stuff that we were all trained on, which, I think at different times in my career, like maybe I didn't always like agree with, but I love that there's like now data saying like maybe you don't sell to them on the first appointment. Tell us more about that.
When you have a new client in your chair, the most important thing is to get them back for a second visit. And you should prioritize that above everything else, right? And so for me, like what we were seeing in the data was that the amount of businesses and what good looks like, right? Like the best in class, there's a big difference in how many of those clients that are come in for a first visit actually end up making it to a second visit, right? And so there's a big discrepancy there. And so what we see as best in class is 70% of the clients that you see for a first visit end up coming for a second visit. The average that we see on our platform is 45%, right? So there's a huge
Okay.
difference in folks that end up coming back for best-in-class businesses that really do this well. And so there's a big drop-off after that first visit. And then if you play this forward, then the folks that come back for the next visit, for a third visit, right? The average salon is 70%,
Wow,
right? So
okay.
it's like it goes from 45% and then it goes then to 70% of that 45%. And so you keep playing this forward, we end up learning that like there's a big difference in the businesses that are best in class and how many clients they end up retaining, and those that are just kind of average client retention. And so basically the businesses that are really, really good at this have to work half as hard because they retain twice as many clients as kind of the average business. And so how does that show up? I mean, that shows up in like you can be much more efficient in your marketing spend and how many clients you need kind of coming in to offset those that you don't retain. There's some really interesting like impacts on that sustainable revenue stream, that recurring revenue stream. And so my belief is like when you have a new client in the chair, like get them back for a second visit and get them actually back for a third visit from there. And that is the most important step. Like you should market for the third visit and do everything in your power, have just an incredible first couple of visits to get them to the third visit. And if you can get them to the third visit, they're basically your client for life.
Very
right?
cool.
Like at that point, like they're yours, but we see like the biggest drop-offs happen after the first visit for sure. And then the second visit as well, the third visit. What does that end up looking like then operationally is it is counterintuitive to what you were saying.
Yeah. Or what we've learned along the way. Yeah.
If you have a brand new client in your chair, like, do you really have the license, the authority, the trust, the relationship to try to sell them some very expensive shampoo and conditioner, right? Like, it's probably, the amount of salons that I think get this wrong, there's a lot where a client will come in and like, you're just trying to sell them everything. You're trying to sell them an enhancement, right? You're trying to sell them retail. You're trying to like pre-book them. You're trying to do all this stuff. And it just ends up feeling overwhelming to the client. I think you should really focus on building that connection and then just do subtle things around like, hey, next time I'd love to like try this, right? Like this, I want to do this. And like, just start laying those breadcrumbs to build a deeper relationship, a long-term relationship. Don't try to do everything all at once.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's like the basics of like how we get to know people. Like when you first meet someone, you're not like, here's my childhood trauma.
Yes.
I mean, maybe you are, which might be really fun.
Yes.
But
it probably doesn't work well for that person.
Right. Yeah. You take your time, like peeling back the layers.
Yes.
So it seems like so obvious, but like it's so funny because like you said, we're trying to jam pack this appointment with the service, the sales, the products, the pre-booking, and it does feel really overwhelming. I mean, I think it feels overwhelming to some of the service providers too that are trying to nail all the areas. So that's awesome. Really nice to see some like data backing that up. Very exciting. This episode is brought to you by Boulevard, the modern, easy-to-use client experience platform that delivers everything you need to streamline your business, empower your staff, and amaze your clients. Listeners can save 10% for tuning into this episode. To learn more, go to joinblvd.com/podcast. Boulevard, make every moment matter. How does client experience and having a really elevated one relate back to retention?
Yeah, I mean, if you have an amazing client experience, like it's going to be really easy to get clients back, right? Like if there's no work involved or any obstacles of a client coming back, like that's an amazing experience, right? It's super important to really like kind of focus on that. It's like, if clients are like, take my money, like you want to be able to like accept that money in like an easy way, right? So that's everything from having some really simple booking to having a playbook where you're not trying to overload them on the first visit and just trying to like just build that relationship, right? And your operations and kind of your goals and incentives and the commission plans of your staff should really reflect that. And it's like I know a lot of salons that have like the way that they prioritize their walk-in list and the way that they pay out commissions have really is around, like, there's a lot in terms of like product sales, but like you don't want to incentivize the wrong behavior, right? So you want to make sure that you're selling the right product to the right client at the right time.
Right. Just being really authentic with like
Absolutely.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we've seen that where it's everyone's getting the same look, everyone's getting the same products. And I think some clients are okay with it for a certain point, but then like retention does fall off after some time once they like the smoke is cleared, you know?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
so yeah, I love what you said there, because I think every time you have a very effortless client experience where you're just like, oh my God, things are just happening for me. It's, you want to repeat that. You want to come back and feel that again.
I mean, Shanalie, you were a manager at a very premium salon here in LA. That's how we met.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the tactics that you would train your staff on?
So to be honest with you, like looking back, like I do wish I had done things a little differently, because I did do a lot of what was like taught to me.
You were pushing product on the first visit, weren't you?
Of course,
Okay.
of course.
Well,
I hate to admit it, but I was pushing product on. But I did come from a place of like authenticity, right? Where don't put something in front of this client just because it's the most expensive, or you saw that they have a designer bag and now you're going to try to upsell them on the most expensive, whatever it is, right? Like don't do any of that. Like give people what they actually need, be prescriptive. I always taught people to be the professionals that they are, you're the hair expert, right? Give them the expertise. Like don't be a used car salesman. The one thing that I always had a difficulty with, and maybe this could be a whole different episode, pre-booking. Pre-booking used to drive me insane, which, you know, obviously really like relates back into retention and all of that. But I always thought that there needs to be technology in place to pick those people up in the right way, because it does funnel back to client experience. Like, you know, I am from this industry. I grew up in this industry. I love everything about it, but like I can't pre-book my appointment at the time of my visit. I don't have that kind of schedule, right?
You don't know what you're doing in 12 weeks from now?
No, I don't actually.
Okay.
I can't even tell you what I wore yesterday. So like, 12 weeks from now, like anything goes. Like
the
at this
dentist
point.
appointment. They're like, hey, let's book something up for 6 months. I'm like,
what?
Great.
Like,
throw something on the calendar. Like, I don't know.
I
I'll end up
always knew
changing
that.
it.
So it's funny enough because I did that recently, and then they called me and they were like, hey, you're supposed to be here a half an hour ago. I was like, see, this is why
Exactly.
I don't book the appointment.
Exactly.
But similar thing, I think it's about the client experience. We're like, hey, I live this busy life. Like, you need to catch me when you catch me. And if you're engaging with me, marketing to me in the right places, like, I'm going to remember you. I'm going to remember I need that haircut. I need that facial, and get back on the books. But yeah. Products, though, you got me on that one. I was definitely doing all the wrong things based on this data. So anyone I managed, I'm sorry. But no, like there are some people that just are able to effortlessly sell that product, you know, whether it be the first or the third appointment. Like I do think there's people who just naturally do that. But I do think this information is incredibly important, because like if retention is always the main focus, everything else will come.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to think about the client as the value of that client as more than just a single visit.
Right.
You really need to think about if you retain them for a year, like how much revenue is that to you, right?
Absolutely.
Like how much. And so I think that's like having a longer term view is really, really important. And I'm not saying if somebody's coming in and like, you know, that they really need a product, or like their hair is damaged, or like,
they need help.
Sell the product, right? But like, or if they were like, oh, I don't have like the right styling cream or whatever, and it's like yes, help them, but like don't just bring up some random products to the front desk where the front desk ends up having to sell them for you. Like it needs to be consultative, personalized, and so like you can't be lazy about it.
Yeah, that's so like get off your script, like move away from your script. Like don't do the same, like, hey, this is the moment that I put the products in front of you. If this person really needs the product, like genuinely share why and how. The education around it, of course. So now, knowing what we know, what strategy would you recommend if you had to just pick one, right? What strategy would you recommend to salon owners that are thinking about all of this now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of this is what we built Boulevard on, which was the you need a really convenient booking experience for your
Right.
clients. Slice this same data multiple different ways. And one of the dimensions that we looked at was the clients that book online for the first time versus either phone or walk-in. And the thing that we ended up seeing was that the clients who book first online end up having twice as better retention
Wow.
as those that are calling or that walk in, right? So like there's this type of client that is very high value to you that you're much more likely to retain, and they want to book online. Like it's just a part of the behavior, as if they oriented towards booking things online, like they're going to stay with you longer. It's the most interesting thing. So there's a direct connection there. And the other part of that also is those that book online, they end up spending 30% more.
Wow.
Like
That's a big number.
It's a big difference, right? So like this is a very high value type of client that wants to book online. And so you need to make it as like convenient and frictionless for them as possible.
That's very cool. It's almost like we're like witnessing like the evolution of the client, right?
Mhm.
Where I remember we were always calling and doing that, or maybe like connecting directly with like our stylist or whatever it was. So that's super exciting to hear, because I know that's like a place where people get nervous, where like, are they going to have the same experience, like where we can like upsell and do the whole
Yeah.
thing that we do over the phone? And it sounds like they're even having a way better experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine upselling if they just choose to get the add-ons during the booking process and everything. Like you don't need to actually then upsell if they have already been upsold to through the technology, right? So things like that.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great point. I actually, so, using Boulevard was my first experience, like going online. And you remember, I was
Yeah,
like,
you were terrified. Yeah.
yeah,
You were
I,
excited, but you're like,
oh my God. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always joke that I must have driven like the whole Boulevard team crazy. And I'm shocked that you
Yeah.
guys wanted me to,
Yeah.
to come work.
Accurate, yeah.
Yeah, it was like the whole time, right?
Scared me a little.
Yeah.
It was good though. It
A
was
good
great.
scary, a good scary. Yeah, it's nerve wracking, right? These are $1 million businesses that
Yeah.
are now like trying something new. But I actually had a really great feedback from a client that had been seeing the individual stylists for like even long before the salon existed. They follow them over, and they're like, "Oh, I used your tool, and like I didn't know you offered these other things." Like, and we were doing like some of the mill bond treatments and stuff, and
Mhm.
and it was like all these great extra add-ons where they're like, I had no idea. I was just coming to get my little haircut and then I'm on the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to try out this like new treatment. And I was like, wow, okay. Like I'm sold. Like, let's just keep
it's
doing
like
this.
you don't have like a fast food menu where it's
Yeah.
like it lists everything that you offer at the
Right.
front. Like, yeah, so there's like a discovery aspect of seeing what other services are offered, and especially if you can merchandise that in the booking process when they're booking their primary service, like you can make a lot of like upsell revenue from that.
Absolutely. And it doesn't feel pushy,
Right.
which is the
Yeah.
beautiful thing, right? So,
Absolutely.
very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the next couple questions we ask everyone. So
Okay.
we love to know. We call this one the good, the bad, the ugly. So this can be like an embarrassing story. It could be a big achievement. It could be like, like a big aha moment for you. What comes to mind? We want to hear it.
I think it was like maybe all of those things at once was when me working behind the front desk. So
Oh,
like
God.
as you know, like when we were launching every customer, my co-founder and I would go and work on site, right?
Mhm.
Like we'd go work a few days before, make sure that our software could power everything that they needed, and then we launch, and then we'd work for days, weeks, basically until you said, okay, get out of here. Like we're good. Like you can
Yeah.
leave now. It was so awesome to have that experience, being able to work our own software, play the role of front desk, and really see what it was like to like walk a mile in the shoes. What was crazy was like it was one business that we worked at where like during the holidays,
Oh,
like
no.
the week of Thanksgiving, we were working, and like clients were like not nice. Like I
Yeah.
was just like, wow, like, and you can feel that, right? Like there was this like energy that like when clients are stressed, and it was mostly around the holidays, like you could feel that at the front desk, and just it was interesting. So it was so much fun. It's such an amazing experience working across dozens of our earliest customers to really learn what was needed at the time for us to build. But like the thing that I could just never like figure out was like the phones. Like I'm
You're an
an
online
engineer.
booking
Like
guy, yeah.
I'm pretty nerdy, but like the phones were the hardest thing to use. I hung up on so many people, and then I would feel
Hilarious.
terrible. But like, there's a lot of buttons, and like putting them on hold versus like trying to switch line. Like, it's like, oh my God, I can't do this. Like, please just go use the online booking.
That is hilarious. Don't worry. I'm sure those people call back, especially if it was
Yes.
the week of Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Also, very bold move, like going and working the front desk, like during the holiday time. Did you even know like what it was like in salons during
No.
holiday? You had no,
No
of
idea.
course not.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, no, they'll make you cry. You know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It was intense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's all in good fun. I feel like the second everyone gets their like service, they're like, okay, I'm back to myself. You know,
This is great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, our final question will be, how do you define success?
I think success a lot of times is about impact. It's about, the things that you're doing. Do you accomplish them, and do they have like the impact that you're trying to make? And so, we think about this quite a bit at Boulevard, which is we're not just trying to be software, right? Like we're trying to actually be software that makes a tremendous impact on not only the day-to-day lives of our customers, but also on their P&L. Like we want to show real revenue, and we build our system with like all those things in mind. It has like the best practices built in, and so like it's sometimes it's not about like the number of features you have or like the 200 different report templates or whatever. Like, okay, fine, but it's like, what's the actual impact that you're making? And so I like to think about that in terms of success often, is what impact can we make, and is the success that we create for our customers that then reflects on us as a brand.
Very cool. I know just from experience that I feel like Boulevard does a great job at letting the customer be the star of the show.
Yes.
Where Boulevard's almost like an afterthought to the customer.
Like
Like
be invisible, right? I think that the most luxurious and premium experiences are just completely seamless. They're transparent. They just don't get in the way. And so like that's what we try to do.
Yeah, great tech is tech that you don't think about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
You don't want to have to learn how to use something, right?
No.
Like you just want to be able to use it. And
Easy as using your iPhone, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, awesome, Matt. Thank you. This was great to have
Yeah.
you on. Awesome information. And
Super fun.
yeah, so if folks want to learn more about Boulevard, or you, where can we look you up?
Learn more about me, like on our site. It's joinblpd.com. You can learn more about the company as well as me and kind of what we're building. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
yeah, thank you.